You have probably heard of Descartes before. He is sort of considered the father of modern philosophy and one of the true champions of science, like Newton or Galileo, who embodied the spirit of doubt more than anyone else. This spirit is, of course, the will to question preconceived notions and false intuitions about reality, and Descartes was such a renegade that he doubted absolutely everything, even his own sanity and the reality of your inner experience. Are people real? Am I crazy? Is this world all fake? Am I even here? At the peak of his self-doubt, he came to a strange conclusion. Because nothing could be known with absolute certainty, the only thing which could not be doubted away was the doubter, subjected to absolute doubt. So even if you think there's no absolute truth whatsoever, you're still truly there. That's how the thinking subject facing an objective world became the center of our modern understanding of reality. But then Descartes himself went and invented the most fateful myth of modernity, the alleged external and objective reality of matter. As you know, the scientific worldview is called materialistic. It affirms that objects like rocks or bodies or planets are made out of the same substance, matter. However, the human mind, well, it's more than that. It's an altogether different dimension, hovering on top of it, maybe. That's the mind-matter dualism with which Descartes indoctrinated the Western mind, known as Cartesian split, because he separated totality into mind and matter. Little is it understood, however, that this was a literally nonsensical reading of reality, contradicting the very spirit of science which Descartes supposedly embodied like no other. So in the 18th century, the philosopher Berkeley came along and wondered, how do I know that the chair or the table is actually material? Because the object I visually perceive feels hard when I touch it? But then what's hard? The table or my experience of engaging with its visual appearance? You see, almost 3 centuries before the invention of virtual reality, Berkeley realized that to say that an object like a table or a chair, or even a planet for that matter, was made of that which we sense was a linguistic projection of our sensual experience onto visual phenomena. Technically, we cannot actually tell whether the table is material or not. It might be, sure, but we can't actually tell, so why pretend that it is when we can't know that it is, right? All we can do is affirm that our experience of engaging with objects is material, like with things in a virtual reality game. That's it, and that's how the limits of the senses became the limits of matter. Naturally, my little brother's mind is deeply rooted in German thought, and Berkeley actually made it into German idealism through first Kant and then Schopenhauer. And when the pessimist realized that nothing in our visual field could be claimed to be material, but that matter was internal and the quote-unquote outside or external world its mirror image, a pattern projected from within, well, he felt quite stupid about his previous epistemological ignorance. So in his masterpiece, The World as Will and Imagination, which cements a virtual reality worldview, the pessimist called everyone stupid who pretended that matter could be said to be an external substance. Of course, the message has not reached the scientific community just yet, which to this day suffers from a linguistic mental confusion regarding the reality of matter, which is so deeply rooted that Cartesian Brain-Split seems the appropriate denomination of such medical condition, in my little brother's honest opinion at least. In fact, its consequences may have been so horrific that it may have even deactivated half the human brain if you read The Master and Her Emissary, whose author makes the subtle allusion that Descartes' emergence as philosophical head of modern thought was the inception of autism into the Western mind, triggering its subsequent downfall into mechanistic dogmatism. Quite interesting, coming from a psychiatrist if you think about it.